You think you use a fork because it's cleaner? Not quite. If hygiene were the only concern, washing your hands with soap would solve the problem. The fork didn't appear to make your hands less dirty. It appeared to make you look less animal. That sounds harsh. But for centuries, this was exactly how European society framed the act of eating. Using your hands was instinctive. Using a fork was controlled. And here's the most fascinating part. This shift wasn't accidental. It resembled a large-scale rebrand, where a small metal tool was elevated into a symbol of status. The question is no longer who invented the fork, but rather who turned it into a definition of sophistication. The answer involves one woman and a royal banquet. In 1533, a 14-year-old Italian girl named Catherine de' Medici left Florence for France to marry the future king. She didn't arrive alone. She brought chefs, recipes, spices, and the habit of using a fork. In Italy at the time, forks were becoming more common. In France, however, many nobles still ate with their hands at formal feasts. Imagine a royal banquet. Every eye fixed on the queen's gestures when Catherine lifted her fork calmly and deliberately. It wasn't just about eating. It was a statement of style. In the rigidly stratified society of 16th-century Europe, every detail signaled class. What you wore, how you spoke, how you ate. When the highest tier of society began holding forks, those who wished to belong followed. No one wanted to appear uncultured. The fork evolved from practical tool to social symbol. It didn't just help you eat pasta, it helped you gain social credit. And so a small object began reshaping how people behaved at the table. Try a simple experiment. Eat a slice of fruit with your hand. Then eat one with a fork. Does it feel different? When your fingers touch food directly, you sense temperature, moisture, texture. The experience is immediate, primal, intimate. A fork creates only a few centimeters of physical distance. Yet that distance carries immense psychological weight. It's like wearing a tailored suit instead of a t-shirt. You haven't changed who you are, but you've altered how others perceive you. That separation reduces the sense of lunging at food. It transforms eating from biological necessity into a controlled ritual. Sociologists describe this as part of the civilizing process. Beginning in the 17th century, etiquette manuals spread across Europe. They dictated how to hold a fork, the angle of a knife, the order in which utensils should be used. The fork wasn't just metal. It became a behavioral training device. You were no longer simply hungry. You were demonstrating self-restraint. And once society collectively agreed that forks represented refinement, those who rejected them seemed out of place. There was another reason forks became associated with wealth: their material. For centuries, aristocratic forks were crafted from silver, not merely because it gleamed beautifully. Silver possesses natural antimicrobial properties. Silver ions can inhibit bacterial growth. In simple terms, the surface carries a subtle protective quality. There's also chemistry at play. Silver reacts minimally with food. If you've ever tasted water from a cheap metal spoon and noticed a faint metallic tang, that's a mild chemical reaction between the metal and saliva. Silver reduces that effect. The flavor remains unchanged. So, when someone displayed a set of silver forks at the table, they weren't simply showing off wealth. They were signaling refinement, knowledge, and access to expensive materials. From this context emerged the phrase, "born with a silver spoon in one's mouth," a metaphor for being born into privilege. Gradually, the fork stopped being just a utensil. It became a marker of social identity. And perhaps the most intriguing aspect is this: when a tool shapes how we eat, it also shapes how we think about ourselves. We like to believe we use objects. Yet sometimes, objects quietly redesign our behavior. The fork teaches us to sit straighter, to lift food more deliberately, to distinguish between polite and rude. It turns a meal, something deeply biological, into a social performance. Step back, and you'll see other objects doing the same. Smartphones shape how you communicate. Social media shapes how you express emotion. The fork was simply an early example, so the next time you pick one up, ask yourself, are you controlling it, or are you following the rules it represents? If you enjoy interrogating everyday objects like this, there's another one waiting. It's smaller. It lives in your pocket. And it influences your behavior far more than a fork ever did. And that story might change the way you look at tonight's dinner.